I'll introduce you to Dr. Mirjana Prica. So our special guest for today, Mirjana is the Managing Director of Food Innovation Australia Limited, FIAL. She's got more than 20 years of experience, both research and commercial experience across materials, minerals, and the food and agribusiness sector. Mirjana sits on numerous boards and advisory groups for universities, research and industry organisations. So Mirjana will introduce her organisation, FIAL, provide you with a little bit of background, and then dive into some of the outcomes from FIAL's recently completed Capturing the Prize report, which I think creates an incredibly inspiring and ambitious vision for the potential of our industry. So be great to get into that, and we've allowed some time at the conclusion of Mirjana's session for questions and discussion, either about the content that Mirjana shared and any ideas that it sparked, or questions or challenges or opportunities, or any general conversation, depending on how much time we've got. So before I hand over, I'll just pause very quickly. Are there any questions or technical challenges? Any comments? Have I missed anything, Frank?
No, that's all good. So,
so
everything can be shared. So I'll open up that that window for yourself and Mirjana to share screen.
Well, Mirjana, the floor is yours. If you wanted to share your screen, you can throw the presentation up, and I'll put myself on mute.
Well, hopefully technology works. Well, hello everybody, and I'm really delighted to see all of you. I wish I could be face to face. I miss human interaction. I was up in Dalby in Queensland at a protein conference. It was so refreshing. So refreshing to just touch people, you know, in a virtual sense, but also to have a proper conversation. And it was actually quite interesting. So, you know, Katrina, when you talked about the skills, I came across some interesting discussions of how they're struggling to find people, and we're looking to address a lot of the gaps. So I think you'll all walk away with something. If you do have a burning question, please put your hand up. I mean, it's a small group. I can miss things, add more. You know, it's in the moment, so just ask. Don't worry. And I'm hoping it'll be about 35 or so minutes. But let's see how we go. But I just want to say to Frank and to Alex, thank you. Congratulations on, you know, having these events. And it's really exciting for me to talk to you about Capturing the Prize. As you're probably aware, Central Coast Food Alliance is one of 4 clusters that FIAL has funded. We believe, you know, this is the only way we can get the scale and the capacity to really help our regions, particularly SMEs in regions, to access what they need to actually be successful. So congratulations, and it's great to see connections to one of our other clusters, Ferment Tasmania, in Tasmania. So it's really great to hear. So let me see if I can work technology. I've just got to, if I struggle, I think, Alex, you've got my presentation, haven't you? So I just want to check if I put it onto full screen and then I press share, how does that work? Because
then you have to pick the screen.
Technology fails me because it's not going to work because I can't then work out how to manage the system. Hang on. All right, let's see if I do it this way. Okay.
That's
Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
All right, cool. And I'll put into presentation mode. Wonderful. Can everyone see? Cool. Great. Okay, excellent. We're cooking with gas, as they say. All right. So rather than me giving the spiel of who I am, who and the organisation I represent, I've got a little video. So I'm hoping the video works for everybody. It's about a minute or so, but it will give you a good overview of who we are as an organisation. So let's see if technology works. Is that working?
We're an industry-led, government-funded initiative.
Can hear it.
Is it working?
I can hear it, but I can't see it.
Of the federal government. One would say we're the voice of the industry to government, and vice versa. We also help industry to capitalize.
Screen's frozen for me.
Yeah, the screen froze for me also. As soon as you made it presentation mode, the screen froze for me.
Yeah, maybe just take it out of presentation mode, Mirjana.
So it's not working, the video?
Yeah, we could hear it, but we couldn't see it. I think the best thing to do is take it out of, take it out of presentation mode and just leave it like
You
that.
think that's the best way?
Yeah, that
Okay.
should work, hopefully.
Sorry.
Yeah, just start again.
Yeah. Dress rehearsal.
It's all right.
Share your screen again for us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yep. No, thank you. Technology always, hang on, where is it now? Sorry. All right. Hang on a second. I'll just start from this so I can work out. Why is it not showing up? Right.
There we go.
Okay.
Done.
All right. Now, let's play it.
So, who are we? FIAL
That's it.
stands for Food Innovation Australia Limited. We're an industry-led, government-funded initiative responsible for delivering the Food and Agribusiness Growth Centre initiative on behalf of the federal government. One would say we're the voice of the industry to government, and vice versa. We also help industry to capitalise on market opportunities by building their capability and connect them with researchers to drive innovation and commercialise good ideas. We also want to cut red tape and get the whole industry working together to help increase productivity and make the sector more competitive. So how do we do this? We do this by listening to you, the industry, to identify your needs and then help create the programs to address them. Our market readiness workshops, for example, help companies improve their market skills across exporting, branding, and e-commerce. There are also initiatives that help businesses get their ideas ready for markets. There are even programs that provide matched funding to connect businesses with researchers to overcome technical challenges. As a catalyst for growth through collaboration, we exhibit at trade shows and promote Australia's food and agribusiness capabilities, including connecting Australian suppliers to overseas markets through our Australian food catalogue. Our team is made up of people from industry who all know what it's like to run a successful food or agribusiness. We think big picture, but understand the importance of being market ready. We also know that to achieve the best for our industry and Australia, we must get every part of the industry working together as one. That's the only way we will win internationally. So, if you're looking to grow your business and need information or want to build your capability, or connect with a researcher and or market, then we're the people for you. Why not look us up at FIAL.com.au for more information.
So hopefully that's giving you a good overview of who we are. So, but we are, as the name says, we were established by the Commonwealth, but we actually are an independent organisation that actually is there to really help the Australian businesses be successful domestically and overseas. Hang on a second, I've just got to work out that, how do I do this? Why is it not moving across? Sorry, technology is not working for me. Okay, we'll have to do it this way. So as an organisation, we actually focus, can everyone see that, or do I need to just bring it down a bit? Better? Good, thank you. So as an organisation, we look at the whole of the food and agribusiness value chain, and so we look at the inputs that go into making the final products. So we work across, but one of the things we don't do, we don't focus on commodities, and those commodities are already being addressed through the Agriculture Minister and portfolio. So we focus on value adding. So everything that we do, it's about how do we differentiate and have a point of difference in the marketplace. So how do we do that? What do we do by support? We support the industry through 3 pillars. They are, we share knowledge, we build capabilities, and we create connections. And they're what we call the tools of the trade to really enable businesses to have the growth that they need to succeed. So let me share with you some of the work that we do across each of the 3 pillars. But the pillar that I'm going to talk to you about is really Project 2030, and it's about how do we double Australian food and agribusiness to be more than what it is today. And this is a foundational piece of work that we've done over the last 2 years, really. For your information, currently the food and agribusiness sector is worth 61 billion of value add, and we employ over 500,000 people. The challenge with our industry, our total food and agribusiness, which includes agriculture, of the 180,000 businesses, 120,000 of those businesses are what we call, they don't sole traders. They actually don't employ anybody, like trust funds. They're more like the growers and producers who have set up their family trust funds. And then of the 60,000 remaining businesses, 98% of those firms are SMEs. So we have a real market failure in Australia in that most of our companies are really small, less than 20 people. And what that does is it creates a lot of challenges around scale and capacity, particularly if you're going to compete on a global scale. So this work is foundational in the sense that what we've done is we've done a lot of work to look at the current landscape. Into last year, we had a challenging year, to say the least, with COVID, the bushfires. You know, we had a lot of events hit us that really have knocked us for a six. But despite all that, we have a really important industry, and it was proven how important it is during a time of unprecedented challenges to Australia. So what we've done is we've actually we've done a scan, and I encourage, you don't have to write everything. Everything that you see here is actually in a report on the previous slide. There's actually a link there, and you can find all this information. So I think the guys will share my presentation afterwards. So you don't have to write, just take notes, but all the details there. And I do encourage you to read the full report because it's so rich. And I'm only pulling out the key excerpts that I think will really tell the story to get you excited about the potential for Australia. So what we've done is we've scanned a lot of the work of many papers, even our own, and we've identified 10 major trends. And the trends are real mega trends, and they're not really changing when you think about it. They're not changing over the next 10 years, and we've projected to 2030. And what we do know is, if you just look on the left-hand side, you know, we know that urbanisation and the growth of the consuming class is going to be really important. I'm just going to touch on a few just to illustrate what I mean. But, you know, in 2030, it's estimated there's going to be 164 billion people, additional people in the consuming class. Well, that's telling you something that's very interesting. As people become wealthier, particularly in the developing countries, and have more money, they're going to be more discerning about what they eat, and that creates opportunities. They're going to have more disposable income to actually spend on their food. So that's a great opportunity. We also know that population growth, for example, historically, just so that you're aware, over the last 20 years, 80% of all the protein consumption has been attributed to population growth. And so that means going forward, population growth is important because as you age, you obviously don't consume as much protein, for example, in your diet as you do when you're younger, you know, below 50 years of age. So, you know, it does mean as you age, you're going to need a formulated meal that's going to be accommodating to suit your choices. We also know, which gets me down to the trend 8, the dietary shifts. The dietary shifts are changing. And what's really quite interesting is how we are starting to personalise what we put into our mouth, and it's going to become increasingly more important, particularly as we are more predisposed to certain conditions or diseases to stop us from actually getting these diseases. And of course, physical connectivity, all I can say is, you know, I wish physical connectivity, and I think COVID's put a stopper on that, but that's going to be increasingly important, and it's going to really drive the future demand for food, you know, globally, but also the impact for what we have to do to try and be on that, ride that wave and capitalize on those opportunities. So what we've done is we looked at the environment, we looked at the trends, and then what we did was we did a bit of an analysis. Well, what are these addressable opportunities for our country? And what we've done is, it's actually quite interesting. What our work shows that we have a significant potential, and the potential is massive. We could be a lot bigger than what we currently are. And this slide summarizes what we say is really the prize. So what our work shows is that we could be at least 200 billion by 2030. Today we're 61 billion, or in 2018-19, we were 61 billion as a reference point. And this is value add. So this, if you can think of value add as, it's about the income you earn, take away all your costs, and it's what you're actually putting in your pocket, the difference. And a lot of people interchange numbers. So this is about 200 billion value add for food and agribusiness. What we have here, and we're looking at the opportunities very differently. We're looking at it well, where are the trends? For example, if you look at health and wellness covers, I'm not going to go into it. I'm just going to give you a taste for what it is, and the detail, what's covered is actually in the report. But health and wellness covers things like fruit and vegetables. It covers things like organic, free from type products. And you can see that this industry is going to be massive by 2030. And it's not surprising because people are becoming more health conscious and therefore they're making choices. So what this slide shows is we've estimated if Australia was looking at opportunities from what are the opportunities into the future, what could they be today, and then what could they be going into the future in 2030? And as you can see, there is obviously the bigger categories of health and wellness, targeted eating. It's all about how you're formulating products. That's all products that are free from salt, free from fat, reduced sugar, and so forth. And you can actually see that those categories are a lot larger, and the growth of those are all sort of in the 5, 6, 7%. But if you can see some of the other categories, such as protected cropping, sustainable packaging, they've actually got more of a significant growth, but they're coming from a very small base. And that's why the base it's why the percentage growth is a lot bigger. So the key message from this slide is that we have significant potential. We have significant potential to create more value and capture more value in Australia. But what we need to do is be looking at, pre and post farm activities, but look at it as a whole value chain rather than saying, oh, it's just agriculture or it's just manufacturing, because the two are interrelated. You can't be making, I used to work for George Weston Foods. You can't make a slice of bread without understanding the flour that goes in to make the bread. What's the quality of the protein that's in the wheat that goes into the flour that goes into making the bread? So this is a really exciting opportunity that we have scope to be significantly greater than what we are today. So, but we thought, well, you can't just think about what are the growth opportunities. We've also, what everyone wants to know is, are there jobs that go with these new opportunities? And the great news is, if we were to realise the 200 billion prize by 2030, we could create an additional 300,000 jobs across all those 19 opportunities collectively. That's exciting. And what we also found was we did a bit of number crunching to understand, well, how will the different occupations change? What percentage of those jobs will change, like sales workers, administrative staff, professional staff, managers, manual labour? And what we found was, overall, the relative proportion of each is not going to change drastically. There's going to be less managers. They're probably the category that's going to change the most, is the managers. But overall, and managers and a bit of manual labour. But apart from that, the good news is there are jobs. And secondly, the good news is that it's going to remain relatively stable, those proportion of jobs in those categories. That's great news for a sector. Oh, apologies, my phone's ringing. I should have turned it off. That's really good news. Sorry, let me just get my technology happening again. So what we also wanted to investigate was, it's not just about creating jobs, but also how are the skills going to change for each of these jobs? And I think that's really important. So I think, Katrina, you'll be really excited to look at this, because it's sort of giving you some insights as to where we need to focus. So what they've done is they've ranked the skills categories in 2019, and then they've ranked them in 2013, what's going to become more important. But what's more important is the percentage change during this period. And what it shows us is that managerial, numeracy, and technical and ICT skills overall are going to become more important across all the categories of roles on occupation types in 2030. And that sort of makes sense when we think about it. If we're going to cut out more managers, that means more people are going to have to step up and become managers, although they're not managers, but they're going to have to take on some of the managerial aspects. If we think about technology and data, more people are going to have to be able to process data and understand how to use technology in their day-to-day job. So even if you're a person out in the field working technology, you're going to have to learn how to use the technology and how to use the data to make sense of the data to be able to spray a crop. Although you're not, you know, a technical person, you're still going to have to understand it. So that sort of intrinsically makes sense when you think about how the results played out. So which of the occupation types are going to have to reskill the most, and which ones are we going to have to help the most? So what our work does was, so this, what this slide shows you is these are the different occupation types at the very top, and these are the skill types. These are the skills that are really important and, you know, what we need. And what we've done is try to highlight, you know, up close to 50% the occupations with the greatest shift in the skill requirements for that skill category. And what's quite interesting, the people that are going to have to upskill the most are the administrative workers. So what we're going to be asking as managers disappear, as we get more automated, you know, these people are going to have to learn how to do number crunching a lot more. They're going to have to pick up some of the skill and some of these, you know, skill sets that are going to allow them to do their job. Now, I don't expect you to read this, so please don't. And this is just an illustration. So when we did this piece of work, we thought, well, if we tell people how big is the prize, you get them excited, you tell them there are jobs to be created, you tell them what skills are required for those jobs, the next thing people want to know is, well, what do I need to do to make it happen? And some people can work it out, some people can't. So last year we had about 100 industry stakeholders, including some researchers. Alex and Frank were part of the team in terms of providing some feedback, and I don't think anyone else was involved. But what we wanted to do was really step through a process of identifying what needs to happen to unlock value. And so what we've done is developed a roadmap over a 10-year horizon for each of the 19 opportunities. And what that says is where we are currently today, where we need to be in the future, and these are the things that we need to do in order to get to 2030 and the prize that's waiting for us for each of the 19 opportunities. All the roadmaps have a roadmap, all the opportunities have a roadmap, and I encourage you, if you're interested in a particular topic, to go to those roadmaps and work out what's of interest to yourself. And I suppose I've picked on supply chain transformation, and I know, Frank, we've talked about New South Wales is calling for programs around logistics, and there's definitely some of the Horizon 1 activities that need to be done in terms of mapping, but also creating the facility and the capacity to address some of those, particularly refrigerated logistics. But what these roadmaps also highlight is, you know, what are the interdependencies between the different opportunities, but also what are the risks and what other reports are out there that you may find really valuable. So it's a great resource of information, intelligence for you to be able to do something. If you're interested in a particular area, there's some really rich information that's contained in these reports. And it is a draft. In other words, it's a document that we're continually evolving over a period of time. So you're probably wondering what next with all of these opportunities. So let me share with you. So all of these 19 opportunities actually link up to the manufacturing initiative. So what we have done is distilled all of these 19 opportunities have an element of manufacturing embedded within it. And the manufacturing roadmap that shall be launched shortly will link up to each of these 19 opportunities. And that's really exciting, because what we've always said to the Commonwealth is you can't be thinking about manufacturing something unless you know who your customer is, who's your market, why are you creating something unless you're actually doing it because someone's going to use it to do something else with it. So that's really exciting. And because of the manufacturing strategy having $1.3 billion, it creates opportunities for your own businesses to apply for funding. And I believe funding rounds are starting to open up. The food and beverage roadmap won't be available to probably mid to late March. And as soon as we get it, we'll actually help and work with each of the businesses to try and get them some funding. So what we're doing next is we're from FIAL's perspective, we are trying to raise awareness of this collateral, this pool of knowledge that's available to help businesses. But we're also trying to get alignment. So I'm working for a lot of state governments and regional councils around the country to get alignment so we can all collectively take action around these opportunities. So, for example, the food waste roadmap, that's actually been implemented already through the 5 Food Waste CRC. The fisheries, sustainable fisheries roadmap is being led by the FRDC, the Fish and Research Development Corporation. So it's really exciting that these initiatives are being owned and driven to realise value for our sector. So at this point, I'll pause and open up for questions because there's a lot of rich information here before I continue my presentation about what else do we do for the sector. And there might be questions, but I can't see them. So maybe, Alex, I'll get you to read them out.
Thanks, Mirjana. Look, I've been tracking it and there's a bit of discussion, but no questions at this stage.
Could I ask a quick question?
Of course you can, Johnny. Go
Can you
for
hear
it.
me? Hey, firstly, thanks so much for supporting us in getting a keg stopper off the ground. We couldn't have done it without you and James. So yeah, big thank you. Yeah, so if you guys didn't know, FIAL helped us get keg stopper off the ground and gave us the funds to get it happening. So the question I was just going to ask on slide 8, it talks about food loss and waste actually increasing. I thought there was just a lot of work and focus in terms of an education on a consumer front to actually address that. But am I missing something?
No, good question. And it's interesting, actually, when everyone looks at things, they look at things in a different way. So you're absolutely spot on, Johnny. So what that's about, it's about value creation. It's actually not, it's valuated opportunities from food waste and loss. So what are you doing to convert value from it?
All right, good. Awesome. That's good news.
I'm with you on that one. So what it's basically saying at the moment, it's estimated that the food waste and loss is about 20 billion cost to the Australian economy. What it's saying is, that's currently, so what it's saying is, what are we capturing potentially now and what could we capture in 2030? Yeah?
Awesome.
A good question.
Yeah, great question, Johnny. Mirjana, Pete Crane just asked whether you have a priority area for our cluster, for the coast cluster out of the 19. Do you think there's a particular focus area based on your sense of our strengths? Yeah, that'd be interesting to get your perspective on that.
I would say no. It's not for me. It's not for Mirjana to decide what's your priority. It's up for the collective as a group to decide what's their priority. But more to the point, I'll throw back to the group. What's your burning platform? What can't you do on your own? And where clusters traditionally work really well globally is when you work on one problem that you can't solve on your own. That tends to give you that critical mass. And so that's the place that you should focus on. And probably supply chain transformation might be maybe the one that could be an opportunity. But I would also suggest that possibly the energy smart food. You've got, I'm the chair of NIA, the Newcastle group that does all the work in what's NIA stand for? Energy resources industry. Do you know? Frank, can you help me?
No.
Said it's at Newcastle Institute of Energy and Resources.
Oh, that's it. That's what I did know.
And they tagged on the end food as well.
Yeah, and water as well.
And food and water, yeah.
But just so for your information, they are the world leaders in minerals and mineral processing, extraction of purifying waste streams from mineral processing. They are also some of the world leaders in energy, and now they're venturing into food and water for obvious reasons. So you have in Newcastle, in that region, I'll extend Newcastle into the Central Coast, and I'll probably offended all of you because
No.
But you have an ecosystem where you've got access to engineering skills through mining. You've got you've got access to raw materials. You've just won a hydrogen cluster. A hydrogen cluster is going to be setting up there. So it's about how do you get cheap energy potentially. So my brain's thinking, energy smart food. It's about supply chain transformation, logistics, and how do you create things that are really unique? And maybe they don't have to be unique, but you could just do it more cost effectively, for example, and have that point of difference. So, there's some really exciting opportunities in that space.
So just on that, Mirjana, I sit on the Knowledge Hub as well as the hydrogen cluster. So we started some work with the food group 2019. So we did a workshop with a number of food companies, and I identified some of the issues. But we haven't progressed it much, mainly because of COVID, but
Sure.
we need to get that going. And the hydrogen space, we've already started talking to a company here, Star Scientific, who have got this new technology based at Berkeley Vale. And we've been helping them find a location. We think we found one for them to set up their manufacturing operation. But they're also keen on talking to food businesses about, their process generates heat. So there's opportunities for the food industry in that space. So it's a lot of stuff in the background at the moment because of just COVID and trying to connect people. And so we're just working through it. But that's certainly an opportunity.
And I think you've got to leverage. So another learning. So where the clusters around the world that have been really successful is they've leveraged their core competencies or their natural advantage or the competitive advantage. And, think about what you do really well in the region. You've got access to ports. You've got access to, engineering capability. You've got, think about automation, you've got access to raw materials. You've got the new airport so you've got some facilities here that could really give you a real distinct advantage. And then, it might be a case you might just produce some really good food, but maybe that's not what you do. And when you grow up, maybe you become, producing energy units that helps food manufacturers run their operations at a cost-effective price, for example. I don't know. I mean, but it's that sort of thinking that you need to deploy. So I'm not trying to avoid the question, but to some extent, what's the burning platform? And I also encourage, you've got to embed research at the core of whatever the problem is. And I think you've got a fantastic university as well as the other TAFEs in the region that can actually really give you that point of difference in what you need to do. And you've got some large companies, which is really important. And I'll touch on that in a second, where you need large and small working together, because large gives you the footprint and the muscle to get into those other markets, which, as a small company, sometimes you don't even get a seat at the table.
That's good. That's good provocation. We've got a $1.6 billion health and social services industry here on the coast, and we're seeing a lot of innovation in food at that intersection of food and medicine. So it's good stimulus for us to think about how we can innovate differently by broadening our network beyond necessarily just the traditional manufacturing or growing part of agribusiness. It's connecting with some of those other industries and looking for those intersections.
But also too, there's some problems that, that the industry are facing. If energy is a big cost, right, in production, right, then how do we use the engineering services of the mining who have solved a lot of problems for, automation? So how do we bring those adjacent industries into food and really unlock that potential? So it's really about flipping things, but it's actually finding the problems that you can't solve on your own. And that's where this collective group of businesses can work really well together.
Mirjana, I like your presentation. We actually recently successfully using orange peel. We dried the orange peel into powder and mixed it with our honey powder. That was a very good success. This is still a little bit better, but we can resolve it very quickly, very easily by working with the University of Newcastle. This idea was started from Frank. He taught me about it, and we took that into action. Now, Frank, just forgot to let you know, that we had a reasonable success with the orange peel powder. And from that, we thought about dry many fruit peel or fruit skin, such as the banana skin and any other skins. So I think that would be very good for our space food research and development. But honestly, Mirjana, I found to develop the space food by a small business like us is very difficult. Although we are working with CSIRO and they are very good help. But the smallest contribution from us would be $50,000, although they do another 50K to match it up. And I believe Australia does have the opportunity to become a leader in the space food development. It is related to health, and it also relates to the long shelf life and also the natural benefit, et cetera. But how would you suggest we as an individual player to engage with the other companies or organizations who possibly share the same view in terms of develop the space food? I think it's a very good niche. It's a small though, but if we make it successful, that will give us the credit when we, supply health food to, the international market. If we can do the space food, of course, we can do a better job in the general daily use healthy food. What is your comment on that?
So no, it's great, Carl, and congratulations. And it's good to look, space food, you're absolutely right. It's an opportunity, but it is a small market. But can I say it's a high value add market. So you don't need to sell a lot to actually make a lot of money. So if you can get into that market, I think it's a good opportunity to be in there. But also too, it's not just space food, but what about defense? People, soldiers and that who are actually in the field.
Yeah, that's another good area. Actually, we got approached by the American Navy, the sales. They want us to make a special sort of a bag full of pure Manuka honey powder.
Okay.
They can be used as food, and also they could be used when somebody get hurt, because that can address the wound and everything. Just I'm a Chinese, I have a Chinese background. I'm very cautious.
I understand.
Close to the defense.
So Carl, so all of your questions, so the question is, if you're asking specifically about just your own company, that's a separate conversation we can take offline. We'll work through Frank. But, so if you want to leverage the group, there are opportunities. So, space is one of the priority areas, and defense so there are opportunities. So what I was going to suggest is, what I can do is, my chair, for example, sits on various committees. She's also on the board of CSIRO. So what we can do is we can connect you through Frank and Alex. We can connect you to the right people. But the first thing we've got to do is, what's the problem you're solving and what's your technology bringing to that problem or opportunity? So you've got to come at it from the market perspective.
Yes, we actually had already engaged with the CSIRO and also a Switzerland-based research institute called Lepios. The other one simulates the leaf on the moon and the Mars. So they are going to test our formula in April, this coming April, with the 6 astronauts. So we are working with them. I just feel that as a small player, I don't have the ability to do so much. It's a quite huge job for me.
Yeah, no, look, I appreciate that, and I understand the challenges. But that's why, Alex and Frank and I were on an earlier call around clusters, and we were sharing, challenges. So what I encourage you to do is work through Frank and Alex, ask what you need, and through their networks, they can work out how they can help you and connect you. If we don't know how to do it, we'll at least know where to go to help you to do it. So that's the best advice I can give you.
Excellent.
I think
exactly what we are doing.
in the interest of time, I think we might take Carl's conversation offline. We'll follow it up with Mirjana after the session. I'm just conscious we've only got a couple of minutes left on the call. So
Frank, could I add one comment? Just that is it also just finding other companies that are also, Carl, to get some critical mass, who are also interested in that sort of space food approach, finding complementary companies as well that you can work with and maybe kind of band together and apply for things like CRCPs and that kind of thing?
Yes, that's the area we're looking at. We need more people participate and contribute.
Yeah. So not necessarily finding research partners. I mean, that's obviously important, but also just finding a community of other manufacturers who are interested in that kind of thing.
Yes, that is what I mean. So we need the proper network, and we interactive with other players who may share the same view. So jointly we can develop, because I have another thought to developing a 3D printer, food printer, could be used in the space, but this again need a different sort of resource and knowledge.
Yeah, and I suppose that's working through the bigger network of FIAL is where we can make those connections.
Right.
So we're piloting a thing called the Food Matrix, which will be a platform where these things can be discussed. So we're just in a pilot phase at the moment. But that's where in time, you know, you won't even have to go through us. You can go to the network, the broader network, and find out who's doing what. So, but in the media term, it's through Alex or myself, and then we would follow up with Mirjana and her team to see who else is working in that space.
Because one of the things that Belinda's comment is absolutely spot on. It's not just about research, it's about businesses. But my comment has always been, what's your challenge and what are you trying to solve? And then what we do is we put the solution around it. It could be research, it could be connection to markets, it could be connection to funding. And that's why, you know, working through Frank and Alex is really critical. Alex, I was just thinking, because everyone's enjoying the conversation, do we just not do the rest, and they can, because the rest is really just to show what else we do for the sector, and because they might be interested in some of the things that we do, and I can cover that off in about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, sure thing. If people are okay to stay on for an extra couple of minutes.
Is everyone happy for me? Okay. If everyone can see? Good. All right, cool. So what else do we do for the sector? So what we've done is we also, we were commissioned by the Commonwealth to develop the roadmap of how we reduce food waste by half by 2030. So we have completed that piece of work, and we, an interesting part of that work at the moment is we're also doing a feasibility study to show where are the hotspots, but how do those hotspots that if you were to target, how does it impact the resources of carbon dioxide creation, water, land use. So that's going to be a really valuable tool that people can use when they're looking, particularly around the impact on climate and how, you know, food waste can actually have an impact on climate change as well. So that's an example of what we've done. What we also do is we report and help the government identify what are the burning red tape issues, particularly in market and overseas. So we have a trade barriers register where you can register what your issue is, and what that intelligence is used for is to help inform the government on areas, what are some of the barriers stopping from entry, and how do we make it easier to do business in Australia. So what we do in the terms, we do a lot around capability building and capacity building. So around markets, around innovation. And so we run a transformational leadership course. And Alex, I'm not sure if you've sat through this course, have you? I'm not sure if you have.
No, I haven't. We've shared it with the network. I haven't done it myself.
I think Daniel did it the first time.
Yeah, Daniel did it. Yeah, Daniel did it.
Yeah.
So what this course stems from is we got a lot of feedback from the industry to say, we know we need more leadership across the industry, but we actually don't know how to be good leaders and better leaders. So what we have done is designed a program to try and lift the leadership for the future of our sector. So currently we've got a course that's running. It's open still. We nearly filled up the places, but it's open. We also recognise that being on a board of a cluster is not it's not straightforward, and you have to understand a cluster is not a business like you would run a corporate business. It's actually very different skill set. The risk appetite's very different. You have to entrepreneurial mindset, and you've got to let the cluster managers get on with the job and not interfere with how the business is operated. So we have designed and run a course for people who sit on a board of a cluster. So people in this group may be interested in possibly sitting and going through this course. We're looking at doing one with some groups in Scotland so therefore there could be some cross-fertilisation with people in other territories. We also recognise, particularly COVID highlighted that a lot of company directors didn't understand food safety and their requirements as a director of a company and what do they have to do. So we run a food safety governance for directors course, and you might know Belinda Fiona Fleming. So yeah, so this course, and it's a program really designed to equip business. It's not telling them how to run. It's not a food safety audit, but it's telling you as a director what's your fiduciary duty in making sure that you're complying. And it raised a lot of issues. A lot of company directors had no idea, and business owners, and felt quite exposed with COVID. So once we've got you equipped, you've got all your knowledge, then obviously you want to go into market. And so what we do is we do a lot around getting companies to market. So we've run, it's called a channel readiness training, getting ready to go into Vietnam. What we found is a lot of companies don't know much about markets. Are they at the right price point? So this is a webinar designed to really inform companies. If you're going to be trading in Vietnam, these are the things you need to be mindful of: regulation, labelling, but also a bit about what the price points are and what's your channel to go into that market. You also will be aware that not only do we do training around, not only do we do training around building capability and understanding of how to get into market, but we also run programs to connect businesses and researchers. And, you know, the FIAL's Mars Seeds of Change Accelerator is a great example of how big and small companies need to work together to really create value and help those small companies. But what was quite interesting from this program, and Peter Crane can comment, and even Alex, since you were part of the program, is that, you know, it's not just about the small companies learning from the big companies, it's actually the other way around. It's allowing big companies to learn from small companies. And how do you become agile? Because large companies inherently lose their agility and the ability to respond in a timely fashion. So it was a great example, and I congratulate Mars for the openness and willingness to actually collaborate. And it was great too, because, you know, we worked through Alex and Frank and Peter Crane to actually deliver on this. So well done. So, of course, once you've solved your problem and you've got your product, you obviously want to be connected to market. COVID highlighted challenges, and that, you know, you need invoices. You need invoices to come into the business despite no matter what, and you need to be generating sales, because sales means income, and that means you can keep people employed. And last year we had a lot of political tensions, trade wars, constraints on travel. And we couldn't travel. So we thought, well, we have to pivot quickly. So last year, what we did was we hosted virtual Meet the Buyer events. And this is an opportunity where we bring international buyers into Australia to meet Australian export ready companies. Last year, we hosted 9 of these events across 9 markets. Over 300 Australian export ready companies were introduced to over 200 buyers in these markets. And there are over 800 one-on-one meetings, and millions of dollars of deals have been done. And we just did another one last week. So I'm not quite sure if any of you sell these businesses, if you've actually participated in these events, but I encourage you to be connected to us and work with Frank and Alex to be connected, because companies are doing deals through this platform. And what we're using is our catalogue. The Australian Food Catalogue is a directory of Australian export-ready companies, and that gets profiled to over 500 international buyers from 20 markets. So it's an opportunity for you as a company to profile your product. And so when the buyer can scan the catalogue under particular categories, it's an opportunity for a virtual connection. And what this does is it means that companies who are really small don't have to have a big budget to be able to travel overseas, and they can actually be still connected and connected to customers. And that's important. Customers means sales, and that means keeping businesses going. So I hope I've given you a bit of a flavour of the kinds of things that we do. There's a lot more that we do, but I just wanted to give you a bit of a snapshot of some of the different activities. I'm not sure if we have any more time, but if there's any burning questions, I'm happy to take it now, or we can take it offline and contact me through
Alex.
Send my email, Alex, to people if they want to contact me directly.
Are there any questions from the floor?
I had one question: protein, alternative proteins. So that features in the report. So we've got a couple of organisations already doing that here on the coast. We had Linda from Life Health Food, got Andrew from Sanitarium that do stuff in the that sort of space. So the growth of that, obviously, the report sort of talks about its growth. Is that something that's, how much of a focus is there on that? It's like from the industry in general, I know there's a few players in the market, but like,
it's a massive opportunity. It's a massive focus, Frank. So it depends on how you define it as alternative or plant-based. So the biggest challenge when people talk about plant-based proteins is defining what is the problem. So, and Cyro's embarking on a protein mission, and what they're doing is working with FIAL to take the data from our work to actually capture all the elements of the protein. But the biggest challenge with the protein industry, particularly the plant-based proteins, is what's the problem that you're trying to solve? Are you trying to create a protein of a very high protein concentration? Are you trying to create a protein with a high concentration and a certain functionality? Are you trying to create a protein that has certain flavor attributes? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? And in discussions with many people in the industry, Frank, what I find is a lot of them can't articulate that very clearly.
Yeah, good point. I mean, obviously, the alternatives to meat's one, which is a very prominent one now, and a lot of money is going behind that. But there are other opportunities. And I just noticed Rob nodding his head. I know you're in a slightly different space, but there's probably some interest from your perspective as well.
Yes, we're constantly looking for plant-based proteins. We're also looking for Australian-grown plant-based proteins. So a lot of pea proteins, etc. That's all coming from peas grown in the US and Canada. It's not that we can find a lot coming over here. So we're now starting to work with faba beans, which are grown in Australia. It's obviously used for animal feed a lot of the time, but there's no reason why the protein levels can't be increased and used for human consumption. So we've got two aspects here. We're looking for good tasting proteins as well. Pea and rice aren't necessarily great tasting proteins. So we found that faba bean, for instance, is a much nicer taste when it's just been made into protein. And also we can find some sources in Australia, but it'd be good to find something where that's a slightly improved protein for human consumption. So just scenario. We want to find Australia. We want to more and more. We want Australian ingredients to be putting into our products.
So Rob, so what you've just said is what a lot of people tell me. So what percentage of protein do you want? Do you want it to be an isolate? Do you want to get up to about 80-90% concentration?
Not necessarily, because we're getting quite a bit of protein from the natural nuts that are coming in. For plant protein, we're not trying to get a high protein product. We just want a protein product. So
okay.
Time we can, per serve, we just need 5 grams of protein in there. And we don't have to pack it full. So we don't really need to be going for the isolates. The concentrate's down at 80%.
Okay. So have you tried lupins?
Lupins, we've looked at that. I think, Frank, you've been talking about the lupins, weren't you? Some stage?
I I'm not sure.
Out of Western Australia.
Look, there's a couple of things. Now, it would have been Bill Hazard, I think, would have spoken about that. But just on that whole vegetable protein stuff, there is a company, we're talking to a business trying to get them to set up operations here on the Central Coast to actually start the, processing the protein, or, so you don't have to import it. And, we've got opportunities because we've got Life Health Foods down the road that's already doing it. And there'll be elements that other businesses could be used. So, I mean, it's still a way to go, but this company's certainly investing some money into, what needs to be done. And so, we'll see what comes out of it. But it is a challenge. And we've got another guy who couldn't make it tonight, Nanda Foods, Kieran, who was an apology. He's got a lot of textured vegetable protein, but it is a waste from his hemp product. So he's looking to see what we can do to process that. So look, this is the whole idea of understanding where everyone's at, so we can try to connect people, find ways of being able to make some of these things come alive. So there is a project that we're working with Bill at the moment. Well, we've talked with Bill, ourselves, and Newcastle University to look at how we might be able to bring some of these things to life, and even look at certain beans and how we can get some of the flavour profile, because some of the flavour's quite bitter. How can we design the product to not be bitter? So there's that sort of stuff we're actually talking to. I was in a meeting on Friday around that, with the uni. So
Frank, Frank, I was just going to say, what I really love is that there's a bit of work going on combining really old food science technologies like fermentation and sprouting and things that have been around forever with some of the really modern problems to try and crack some of those issues like taste and flavor development, and even repurposing, let's say, lentils. I'm working with a lentil producer at the moment who is really devastated by chipped lentils being thrown out for chickpeas when they're really can be such a great source of protein and also deliver really great taste. So I think the time is right. Rob, the world's your oyster, mate. If you just got to look out there, there's lots of stuff going on in terms of different proteins that could add really interesting and complementary flavors to the range of Bounce products.
So I completely agree with you, Peter, and just Rob, do reach out through Alex and Frank. But I used to work at Georgia Western Foods, and we were looking at very much the alternative plant-based proteins, and particularly from lupins, and we addressed a lot of the issues around flavour and taste and how do you get up to high levels. So do reach out. If we don't know, we definitely know where to go to get you what you need. So we'll look forward to helping you get Australian-based protein or Australian source protein.
It's going to be a great opportunity for us if we can get it done. Look, and like I say, there are companies working on it now. So, I'm hoping to have one on the Central Coast so we can get through all the hurdles that we need to get through. One of those is not having a council who's got any money. That's a separate story. Although we've got a new CEO, I got sort of an announcement today. So they've got a guy who's been around for 40 years and is an accountant, so should understand financials. Sorry for those local people, but we've got our council went broke late last year, lost about $500 million. So yeah, a bit of a minor problem.
All right, unless there's any other burning questions, we might call the session to a conclusion. Just conscious that we're a fair bit over time. I think cutting into, yeah.
Can I just ask one thing? How do you share anything, or is the only way that we connect is through LinkedIn?
In terms of sharing the outcomes from today, Katrina? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we will send out a follow-up email with a video of the session with a link to the reports, a link to FIAL's website where you'll get a sense of all the resources that are there. We'll include a link
My
to
presentation too is a PDF, I think. I think you've got it as a PDF.
Yep. So yes is the short answer. We'll send out a whole bunch of stuff as a follow-up. Because I think what was great about today, there's a huge amount of stimulus that Mirjana presented. I think it's got a lot of people thinking, and it's got us down to some in the weeds in terms of some specific conversations around opportunities for collaboration, which is awesome. That's what we really set out to do. So I suspect there'll be some follow-up through Frank and myself, or people can connect directly with each other If people have follow-up from Mirjana, she's made herself available. So there's plenty of ways that we can keep this conversation live. So I might just say, close things down just by saying thanks firstly to Mirjana. Thanks for making time to be part of the event this evening. As I said, I think it was fantastic content. Just goes to show, again, the potential of our industry and the amount of support that's out there for businesses and different stakeholders across the value chain. You really just need to know where to look. And again, that's the role of CCFA. So thank you very much for sharing all that. Thanks everyone else for being on the call. Thanks for your energy, and you've been an engaged group. Great participation. So we look forward to running more of these. I think as we do more of them, we'll get a bit more comfortable with the technology, and hopefully also we'll be able to bring some of these events back into the real world in the coming months. So stay tuned for more events from CCFA, both virtual and physical. It'd be great to connect with this group and others in person looking ahead. I've just popped up on the screen. The next event is one that we're partnering with both FIAL again and CSIRO on. So Future of Food webinar. It's on the 25th of March. A great chance to learn about all the great work that CSIRO are doing in terms of new technologies, new techniques, some really innovative work in terms of responding to the consumers' needs around the future of food. So it'd be great stuff. A great session. And again, I think it'll be a springboard for some fantastic conversations. So we'll keep you posted on that. The registration details will be out very soon. Unless there's any more for any more, I'm going to say thank you again. Have a great evening and look forward to chatting with you all offline after the session and down the track. So thanks.
Thank you.